And so we're kind of like, I like to compare it a lot to Uber Eats for landscaping. We can go find people that are the best at what they do, bring them for the projects, and put it all together.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here today with Isaiah Ahrens. He's the head of marketing at Landscape Management Group. Isaiah, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, excited to have you. So Isaiah, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a young kid, I don't know, I always loved the idea of business, playing with money, whatever. And so as I got older, I hit a stage in life where, I don't know, it's just really unfortunate. I was super suicidal, and it was like around 14 years old. And I was like, what's the point of life? And it really got to the point super young, like way too young. But after that, decided not to do that. Obviously, it was like, what is my life really worth? And what am I going to do with it? And it's like, if I'm going to do anything with my life, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. So obviously there's a lot of other details, which I won't cover here, but that's what really kind of spawned my interest in business. And so there were three really key things that I would say kind of launched me out of that, early high school age, towards the end of high school. And the first one was I decided to stop playing cross country or running cross country because I wanted to be a quarterback on the football team. And so quit that. A lot of people were upset because that was my best sport. Any people out there that are like into running, whatever, and 17:45 as a freshman, only running like 10 miles a week, like not really trying. I would just show up for race day. My dad said, you're not allowed to play football. And that was kind of in his head. I thought I was going to change his mind, whatever. I only ended up playing one senior year. Still the only sport I was recruited for college, also played basketball, but I wanted an aggressive sport. I was kind of born that way. I didn't like this, like running around Mickey Mouse stuff. Just, I don't know, wasn't in my heart, even though I was good at it. So that happened. I also had a mentor that really came into my life. He was also my basketball coach, leads a Bible study I'm in as well. And so he really just started pushing my life in a direction that I don't know, was kind of gasoline on the fire for what was going on with me internally. And then also I decided, my dad is a pastor, and I kind of went into a stage where like, oh, I want to be a pastor just like my dad, because his dad was a pastor, his dad was a pastor. It's like what everybody does. All the firstborn boys, that's what they did. And so I decided I don't want to do that. I don't want to run cross country. And I have this mentor, and I want to like really dig into what he has to say about my life and learn from him.
Yeah. So
that went on, grew a lot, but then where kind of all this peaked was finishing up my junior year of high school in the spring. I had three more big things happen. First of which, I was taking a friend home from football practice, and long story short, a truck in the median went to the other side in the middle of traffic. An SUV got hit, then a semi truck hit it from behind. A car blew up, burning car crash, super crazy. I ended up, without even thinking, just running straight out, pulled a lady out of a burning truck, and I didn't even think about it. And it was only after that I realized, like, holy smokes, like, what did I just do? As all these people were yelling at me, like, don't do that, like, stay away, like, that car just blew up. And so that really changed my perspective of, oh, like, I'm gonna go to high school, finish that up, college, the perfect plan will just be laid out, XYZ, I'll leave my meaning, whatever. I realized I'm like, oh shoot, like, it's not gonna end up exactly like that. So I had a lot of friends who were like, hey, you should write a book about like your life experiences before that. But after that moment was when I really started to take it seriously.
Yeah.
Also, a few weeks later, really unfortunate, I know this happens a lot, but my mom got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer.
Wow.
And so that was another thing that was just like, oh my gosh. It was really crazy because I left the state after to just get some therapy for the car crash. And, not even really a month and a half later, mom's got stage 4 cancer. So I got younger siblings. And so at that point, like, I'm the oldest, like I said. And I was like, I'm working 3 jobs right now to, pay for my sports, whatever in our family. If you want a car, you want a phone, you got to pay for it. And so I was working all those different jobs doing that. And so I got a letter in the mail that said, hey, you can come do this virtual sales job. And I was like, I don't know about that. I just kind of chucked the letter on my desk. But after mom got cancer, I kind of rethought it a little bit because it's like, hey, I can work remotely with the siblings, watch them while mom's gone, maybe that'll work out. And so gave that kind of a rethink. Went in for an interview, got accepted. Hated it first, had to get a computer to do that because I'm more of an in-person guy, like don't really like the technology, had to learn how to do that stuff. Ended up just struggling through it, but I said, I'm gonna stick this out for a month. And then I met a bunch of people in person. One thing led to the next. I got promoted 14 times in 8 months. Became one of the first district managers in company history, which is cool in high school. And so that's when stuff like really started to take off. During that period, I met Mike, who's the president owner of Landscape Management Group, which I'm at now. And so we're building a relationship. He would just let me ask him a ton of business questions. I was a young guy that was like, hey, can I just learn more?
Yeah.
And so after that, things just absolutely blew up. I love networking. It just kind of took off, and now we are here. So
I appreciate you sharing all of that kind of background of how you got to, where you are now, kind of what built you into who you are, and kind of the blocks that paved the way for you. So talk to me a little bit more about, the Landscape Management Group.
Yeah, absolutely. So it started, I believe 2011, 2012. Mike started it. It was originally called Mike's Landscaping. And he kind of just started straight out of college. He was super business oriented, kind of same like I was. And he was like, hey, I want to make this into a business. And so it was a regular landscape company for a long time, about a decade. I think we're going on like 14 or 15 years now. But we have really transitioned out of like the regular, we do landscaping stuff, to we are a landscape management group, which is why we're called Landscape Management Group now. Kind of makes sense, the name change, all that. And so we're kind of like, I like to compare it a lot to Uber Eats for landscaping. And so we have a lot of people that we work with. So when we talk to a client and they're like, hey, we want a kitchen with a pool and a fence and a unique pavilion or whatever, we can go find people that are the best at what they do, bring them for the projects, and put it all together. And so that was a huge transition that we made. I think similar to like Uber, same thing they do with cars, with rides, or Airbnb, Verbo, whatever, how they take all this excess that's in the market. We're not doing exactly that, but I like to explain it like that. It's kind of similar to that. So that's what Landscape Management Group is now striving to do. And we doubled 2 years ago. We doubled again this year. And so we're trying to pull off another one. I don't know if it'll happen. It's a pretty big goal, but we are very excited and growing the team a lot. I'm head of marketing, which doesn't mean it's a whole lot because I'm just now training and getting all my assistants in different areas kind of on their tasks and bring them up to speed and stuff like that. So yeah.
That's fascinating. So do you see trends in kind of different company sizes or, different projects that Landscape Management Group takes on?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is, and I was actually just talking to Mike about this not too long ago, but there's a point where you want to give quality to customers and clients that are interested in legitimate projects. Obviously, like no one wants to just go and fix a board on a fence. That's not, we want to provide like a experience. Like I tell people all the time, even if you only want a fence and a patio now, we work with people, we do 3 designs, we have a whole design team, and we work with people over not just years, but we also work with them for a decade plus to help them build their backyard. It's not like, oh, you don't want to do it all now, throw them off ship. It's like, hey, we're here to work with you and build a relationship with you. So that's something that we're really striving for, but also providing value to, hey, even though, we can't work with you, maybe your project size isn't quite something that we can do because we have a whole team, it's very expensive, we can still provide them value. And so we have different pieces of content that we'll send them to help them feel valued. So it's like, okay, we can't help you, shove off. It's, hey, we can't help you, but here's some value that I think will help for, your little project, and really build a relationship. So in the Columbus area, now we're starting to expand to Cincinnati and a lot of Southern Ohio and, hopefully beyond. For commercial stuff, we're already starting to get a little bit into Kentucky and Indiana. That's something that we want to build a brand around. Just like, Nike or Starbucks or whatever, you say that everybody knows what that is and they love it. And so that's something they want to build with Landscape Management Group.
That's fascinating. So are there different services that landscape management group is able to offer and kind of support with, because you mentioned design, like talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So basically the process is, a lot of people come to us for whether, like I said, it's like a little fence project, or it's, we want a pool and we want a kitchen and everything. It doesn't really matter what they want, but the way it goes is, we'll take them as a lead, whether they found us on the website or some other source. We get a professional project manager out there so they can assess, take all the right measurements, talk with the customer, really understand what they want, what their vision is. And then they take all those details, and a lot of them end up doing a design. And so the design team walks through with them. And then the client can then hop on to a virtual meeting with our design team so they can see like, hey, can we make these edits, whatever. And we work with them and customize it. Sometimes they're like, oh yeah, that's great, we love it. Or sometimes they're like, hey, let's make some revisions. So we help them make those revisions. Obviously, sometimes with the budget, you have to adjust a little bit. That happens. And then we work to actually start the project. So there's a couple phases.
Yeah.
From them seeing us on the website to us talking to them over the phone, kind of getting a decent idea of what they need, getting some pictures, getting those to the project managers, so then they go out, get the ideas really set in stone, then it goes to the design team, then comes back, and then hopefully a few months later they have their ideal kitchen project or backyard project or pool project, or they're well on their way to having it.
Wow, that's really interesting. So do you think it's kind of all of that onboarding process with pulling in the project manager, having somebody go on site? Do you think it's kind of that process that really separates landscape management group from its competition?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's definitely plenty of, very high quality landscaping groups in Columbus and of course throughout the nation. But something that a lot of people can't do is if, they're going out to a project site and someone asks something and they're kind of scribbling it on a piece of paper or whatever, and then they go back and they give them this will be your estimate for what the project would be, which is, what a lot of landscapers still do. And to really stay with the curve and technology, Chat GPT and all the stuff that's coming out now, like we could talk about that for hours. It's crazy. But we really feel we got to take advantage of those and plug them into design capability, something where we can make it not just, an estimate or like, hey, this is how much project's going to be. Do you want it? Or, hey, this is an experience that you get. And even if you don't sign with us, we're still going to provide tons of value to you. So that even if, you end up working with, what's the word? I can't even think of it. My brain is dead. A competitor. Wow, look at me. Even if they end up working with a competitor, it doesn't really matter because we're helping bring the whole industry of landscape. We're helping raise the bar for the landscaping industry, which I think is the most important thing. Because at the end of the day, we're all people, we're all humans. It doesn't really matter, whether we get the sale. If we're providing good service, we're going to get it automatically.
So does landscape management group only work with personal projects, or can they also be for companies as well?
Yeah, so we do commercial as well as residential.
Okay.
And so something with that shift and finding out, like what can we really do that can provide the best experience, but also help us provide more value and be able to get more income to put back into our customers. And so for an example, something that we kind of have in the works right now is self-melting driveways. And so we can't really go out and shovel driveways for residential people because it doesn't really make sense a lot. So we do a ton of commercial snow removal. We do a ton of commercial lawn, stuff like that. But we don't do a ton of like that, going to someone's house, shoveling their driveway, mowing their lawn, stuff like that. And so where it comes in is we can install, during the summer months, of course, when nobody's thinking about snow. And obviously Columbus doesn't have a ton of snow, but like Cleveland, places like that, where they get a ton of snowfall, you can install those driveways with, their paver driveway or whatever. And so it melts their driveway. And so we can provide that service, even though that's not something that it just doesn't make sense logistically, but we can provide a different service that helps them in that way. And so we're trying to provide an experience where we can not have to go out to someone's house, but provide them with everything they need to be set forever and not have to come back for anything. Having the neighbor shovel your driveway is awesome, but it's nice when it can just be melted.
Yeah. So it sounds like, the landscape management group has a lot of different kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like avenues that it's able to support its customers with, that it's not just kind of one thing, that you can really adapt and take all of the different offerings that you need to be able to support your customers.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's something that we're, like I said, trying to find out, because we used to do like shoveling driveways, mowing people's personal lawns, residential, and now we don't, but we still want to find ways to serve them and help them. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you're right. We're trying to do it in the best way possible, but we can scale it so we can serve as many people as possible,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully not, lose too many people, or sour good relationships that we've had for clients. For, like I said, Mike's had this for
Yep.
more than a decade. So
Yeah, that's
yeah.
fantastic. That's great. So kind of talking about business, you've got business experience. We talked a little bit about, your experience in the past, kind of what led you now to the landscape management group. Kind of a new segment of the podcast that, we like to do is kind of talking about AI and how the world has been changed by AI and is continuing to change. So do you kind of have any, you said you're an author of a book, so I imagine, I'd love to pick your brain, kind of hear your thoughts on like how you see the business world changing in the near future, with the AI capabilities out there now.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a guy named Alex Hormozy. If you guys don't know who that is, you can look him up. But he had a very interesting podcast about artificial intelligence. And basically, I don't know if any of you have seen the movie I, Robot. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, like, we're moving really close to that. And it won't be that long. Maybe it's a few years, maybe it's a few decades. Doesn't really matter. But it won't be long till we're at the point where I won't be able to tell the difference between you and a robot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all things considered, like skin, whatever. Like, we're in the first part, or like, the iPhone 1
Mm-hmm.
of all these droids and bots and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Version 50, what's that going to look like?
Yeah, right.
The only thing that you'll be able to tell the difference is by, literally the spirit, or, the heart of people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that's really interesting. And so I think that's really scary. That a lot of like a long time we thought, oh, the robots are going to take all the physical jobs, like the manual labor, like, working in restaurants, working in supply chain, things like that. But really, it just took all the creative people's jobs, like do taxes, people that make images. So it's really interesting to see how it's really unpredictable, but it's going to change a lot of things. And a lot of governments, like Italy, just banned ChatGPT. And governments are really starting to freak out, which they should. So we have to learn how to use that technology and integrate. Like, we use that a lot in marketing, whether it be our blogs or social media. We use a lot of AI stuff, and continue to use more. And so I think companies need to use it, because you can't be someone that's just like, this new technology is too crazy, like, I'm not going to use it. There were a lot of people that said that about the car, iPhone, whatever. So you can't do that. Have to be careful, but it is going to change the way not only we've done stuff, it's changed a ton in the last 3 months. But we'll also change a lot of things in general in life. But it should be fun to see. I just think that, have expertise and caution. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that little insight there. That was a good little segment. So Isaiah, if people wanted to learn more about Landscape Management Group, where would they go to learn more?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to landscapemanagementgroup.com. That's our website. You can also go to our Instagram, which we're really kind of rebuilding. We hadn't posted a ton, but we need to, because it's important. So I think that's also Landscape Management Group on Instagram. And then, we have a podcast that we're also kind of working on. Like I said, like, our company is doubled. So there's a lot of things that like weren't important that are now really important that we're working on. But yeah, Landscape Management Group. And then you can also look in there, and we should have bios for each people soon. If you want to see any of my life personally, you can go to ZAHX_Ahrens, my last name. See some of the stuff that I put out. That is pretty much it.
Fantastic. That's great. Well, Isaiah, as we start to wrap up this conversation, is there anything that you want to leave our listeners with, either about your own journey, about Landscape Management Group, the industry in general, anything you want to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, I'm sure Gary Vee is a pretty popular name around most circles, but if you haven't heard of him, he's someone that talks a lot about how even if you're 30 and you feel like, oh my gosh, I wasted so much of my life, you can always start now and achieve great things in a decade or two if you really focus on it. And so, like, I'm relatively young, and I did a lot of stuff in my teenage years that really set me up well for my business career or whatever. So whether you're a young kid, or someone that's aspiring to do business, or you're older and you've been in your business and your niche for a long time, really think about what you really want and go after it. Because I am kind of known as the therapist at work, because I really talk to people like, hey, what do you really want, 5, 10 years from now? What do you want your life to look like? Both in the business and also personally, because I care about the people I work with a lot.
Mhm.
And so really think about that, and then setting that trajectory so you can go out and get it. And you can wake up at 80, maybe you're on your deathbed, whatever, be like, I lived a life worth living, not just, shoot, I have so many regrets. And so that's what I would give to anybody else out there.
That's a great little blurb to leave our listeners with, Isaiah. I really appreciate that. Well, Isaiah, this has been a great conversation. I appreciate you breaking down, kind of like I said, your life, landscape management group, and just the industry in general. I really appreciate you being on Business Ninjas today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to have you.